Hello, hello, hello. Rebecca here, your Vibe mentor. And this continues to be the space for the hidden seekers to help you overcome the blocks that hold you back so you can step into your purpose. Let's talk today about the sneaky ways that resistance sneaks in undetected. So this is connecting to the last video I made about grief. And there is a story around the baby bunny and my experience of loss yet again, as it relates to baby bunnies, which I will get into in just a minute. I did want to let you know there are 3 different ways that I am seeing, actually, I think 4 different ways that I am seeing this is sneaking in, even though we are aware of the detriment of resistance. And we understand that when we resist something, it persists. And even through our resistance, it is focus. Where focus goes, it grows. So we want to dig into why first before I give you the 4 reasons or the 4 ways that resistance sneaks in sneaky ways without our awareness or undetected. But before I do that, I want to remind you why resistance matters. Why is this a big deal? Why is this almost the most important thing that we need to watch out for? So I do have some notes to the right here instead of up on my screen. It is Saturday afternoon, and obviously we're running out to spend the day in the summer heat. So this is a quick impromptu for you. I wanted to show up for you. It felt forced yesterday. There was not a topic that was rising to the surface that I was more of these kinds of things where I'm not going to just post because I committed to Wednesday and Saturday. I'm going to be here when Source says be here, and I'm going to show up in the way Source says show up. And so that might mean inconsistency. That's a 3D term that I have to be committed to some sort of illusion of time and schedule. But know that I'm not going away, and I will be here for you in the best way that Source can support us both in this process. So why does resistance matter? Resistance is the thing that slows us down. If I like to think of us as electrical wires, we are electromagnetic beings. And if you think about the electrical wires in your wall, the way the electrician slows the electricity so it doesn't fry out an outlet or burn down your house is by introducing resistance, which is a great thing when you need to slow the flow of electricity. But right now, we are not struggling with a lack of flow. We are not flowing enough, and we are not flowing because we have resistance. So think of resistance as these blocks in your body. It's kind of like a dam where we stop the flow, whether it's trauma or these other 4 things that I'm going to go through with you. It is the stopping of the flow that is causing our problems. We want more flow. We want more ease. We want more peace. We want more joy. We want more freedom. We want more abundance. And all of that is inhibited by resistance. So that is why resistance matters. And I'll jump into those 4 things in just a second here. I think the baby bunny story is probably most relevant in demonstrating where this awareness is coming from for me. And I guess I also feel it's important to say that over the last couple of years and starting the channel and becoming a coach, there are some things that can inadvertently be projected on you when you start to go down the path of service. That so many of us, especially those of us who've experienced any kind of trauma or conditioning and programming, we're taught to look to the elder or to the authority for permission or for acceptance or for approval or for guidance. And when we, heart-centered beings, step into a position of service, there's also an assumption that comes along with that, that you're somehow elevated above or an authority. And I guess there is to some degree an authority in the arena that you choose to specialize. But yet with that comes an expectation of perfection, an expectation of being all knowing. And that is something that I really want to step away from. Yes, I will be a leader in the way that Source guides me to lead, but at the same time, well, I will always be human, as is every other leader. And any guru who presents themselves as all knowing, and I understand the meaning of every lunar event, and I understand the meaning of every spike in every valley of energy, be wary of that, be cautious, because part of that can be flawed simply by the expectation that is being projected on them. And so while this really doesn't have a lot to do with the topic of resistance, I guess actually it might. It does actually. When that projection is put on you, you then understand that there's an expectation of me, and then we become in resistance to being authentic, or even being vulnerable, or being human. And I guess I didn't realize it until just now, this moment. I probably over the last year have started to feel that expectation, and have been in resistance to disappointing people who expect that from me. And then you don't even realize when this happens. This is part of the sneakiness of how this stuff creeps in, is it's subtly projected on you, and it's subtly understood, and it's very much subconscious, or in your blind spot, this understanding of what is expected of me. And instead of me growing into the person that source wants me to be, that God wants me to be, I start to straddle. I start to try to be both, to follow my intuitive guidance and what God wants for me, and then also not disappoint anyone. Also a trauma response, people pleasing. So I guess expect more humanity from me. Expect me to be human. Expect me to be flawed. Don't expect me to always have the answers to every peak and valley of the energy. And sometimes I will, and sometimes I won't. Not every energy reading on Monday is always going to be perfect. Sometimes I'm going to be in the middle of the loss of a sweet baby bunny. And sometimes I'm going to need to melt. And sometimes I'm going to need to check out. And I give myself that permission, and I expect that it is also given to me by you. And I expect that I would give that to you myself. And I would hope that you also give that to yourself and your other brothers and sisters. So pardon that tangent. We'll get back on the train here. There was some resistance there. There is also what I did not realize very much. So resistance in the experience of the baby bunny. Unfortunate story that I have had not one, but two baby bunny experiences in the last couple years. The first was we found a hole in the ground discovered by our dog, who is a main character in this story. A wonderful 2-year-old Papillon, although they said he was a Papillon, he's about 3 times as big as most Papillons are, so we're not exactly sure what we're dealing with. But in that first story, he discovered the hole in the ground, and it was the most amazing experience for my little daughters and I, where we were so overjoyed to get to be introduced to these 5 little tiny mole or almost worm-like beings who were squeaking and crawling all over the place. And we learned a lot about how you don't mess with the baby bunny nest. You leave it alone. Mama will always come back, usually around 3 or 4 a.m. We humans, especially me, as you know, the nurturing Cancer moon and 3 planets in Pisces, I'm a giver, I'm a lover. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. I want to be the Cancer moon mama that I'm built to be. But we quickly learned that the mama, the real mama, will take care of it. And so we had to let her do her job. And we successfully did that, excuse me, for a while. And yet what we didn't realize, or maybe now in hindsight, I didn't want to acknowledge the advice to literally not go to the nest. Leave the nest alone means don't touch it. Don't go anywhere near it. Completely leave it alone. And we didn't do that. My daughters wanted to play with them and wanted to check on them. And we put a little umbrella over them in the rain and all sorts of fun things. And you know, we had little carrots and lettuce next to the nest for mama, and all went well for a couple of weeks until our consistent presence with the nest alerted a hawk. and let that hawk know that there was food there. And so unfortunately, those 5 baby bunnies did not survive. And I was horrified. The night that we came home and discovered 3 were missing and only 2 were left, I scoured every square inch of our yard with a flashlight in the dark. Literally, not an inch of that yard was missing. I made sure that I made paths and I marked everything, and those bunnies were nowhere to be found. And I thought, because the dog was also next to the hole when I came out and only discovered 2 left, that it was the dog who did it. And so we put the dog away and buried the nest, and came back in the morning, and the one of the remaining 2 was gone, and the 5th had a claw hole in her head, their head. And there was a hawk that sat up on the light post just outside my window, that crowed for a couple of days. Apparently, he was a little bit upset that that last one was taken from him, because I decided to mourn and grieve and bury the 5th baby. And I thought that was the end of the story. I talked with my therapist about this, who I see weekly, by the way, big fan of trauma therapy. Topic for another day, but we talked a lot about why was that so upsetting for me? What did that do for me? Lots of different things came up, but I was very much in resistance to many different things, not realizing it. And then this past week, if you watch the grief video that I posted earlier this week, you will know that we also experienced another baby bunny and another baby bunny death. And it was very hard. When we first found the bunny was brought to us by the dog, my poor dog, and his innate urge to hunt, right? We can't blame him. This is what he was designed to do. Brought the bunny to us. The bunny was alive and just fine, and yet we could not find the nest, even though we had learned that nest lesson about leaving the bunny in the nest and leaving the nest alone. We couldn't find the nest. There was nowhere to put the baby bunny. And so I thought this was a moment of redemption. I thought, this is my chance to save the baby bunny. And we brought the bunny home, 48 hours of successful feeding and keeping her warm and buying her all sorts of little stuffies and beds and blankets to keep her warm. And she slept on my chest, and I felt her heartbeat, and she slept on mine. And even now it's going to make me tear up. It was amazing. And then, unfortunately, a door that was supposed to be left closed did not stay closed, and the dog found her and played with her like a toy for a few hours. And of course, she did not survive that. So what is the lesson? Resistance, right? Where was this drive coming for me to need to care for this thing, to be the savior for these bunnies, to be in control, to be the one who manages the situation and comes up with the problem, comes up with the solution to the problem, and is responsible for successfully saving this tiny little innocent being. And I didn't see any of that until going into therapy. And what I really didn't see was how much I was in resistance to the cycle of life, and in resistance to the fact that bunnies don't serve a significant purpose beyond being food for other beings. And that's still really hard for me to accept. I don't like saying that. It feels very harsh and cold. Even if I found another baby bunny tomorrow, I would still very much revel in the opportunity to be honored and blessed with the gift of holding a safe space for them. That's what I do. That's my job. And I feel that that's what I'm built for. But what I learned through all of this was the pain and the grief that I felt when that little baby bunny left, both times really, was the resistance I had to the experience. And even now I can feel it in my throat. There was a moment in tears Sunday night as I was embracing the fact that she was gone. And even right now I'm doing it. And this is why I want you to understand that Resistance is very sneaky because I'm talking to you about resistance and I'm talking to you about why resistance is a problem. And yet it is still happening in my body. This is part of the conditioning and programming of the world today. I have to breathe. We are told that if you don't like something, you can change it. And to some degree, it's true. But we are not told that acceptance of what is right now is a necessary component of changing things. And in fact, the desire to change things, the trying to change things comes most often, not always, but most often from a place of resistance. That we don't have to be in resistance to the way things are outside of us or the emotions that are inside of us to be able to work towards or move towards a different future. Really notice the next time you feel something, especially something uncomfortable, how in resistance are you to that emotion? That as I laid there in my bed crying and I could not stop, and I pulled out my phone so I could do a guided meditation, something to try to calm and regulate my system. And there was a word or phrase in that meditation that said, just allow what is to be what it is, to feel what you feel without trying to change it. And how subtly and subconsciously we try to change almost every moment, almost every feeling, almost every point of pain. And this is going to seem like a silly, abrupt thing to say right now because it's so opposite of what I'm delivering in this moment. But think of childbirth, or for you men out there, passing a very large stool. And I know that sounds totally ridiculous, but think about when your body is in resistance to this thing, when you're clenching and you're holding on and it hurts and you're resisting the pain, it makes it hurt more. It makes it harder. It makes it more difficult. Those of you who are women who have had babies, you know that the body is designed to contract and release and contract and release and contract and release. And it is that motion, the in and out motion, that squeezes and pushes the baby down. But if we are in resistance and we are clenching the steering wheel of life and we are white knuckling every single aspect of every single emotion that we experience, you cannot pass the baby. You cannot pass the stool. It's not going to work. And even if you eventually succeed in your goal, it will be painful and it will hurt more because you are holding on so tightly. And so it's really, really sneaky. It's really, really sneaky. So number one, how resistance sneaks in without our awareness, sneaks in undetected, is subtly, subconsciously. It's happening because of our programming, because of the way the world has taught us to resist how you feel, to suppress, to push down. And it happens not just emotionally, but also externally or physically. We're in resistance to the person walking past us. We're in resistance to our partner. We're in resistance to our job. We're in resistance to the wind blowing or the heat or anything that you don't like, that you find yourself saying, I don't like this. That is resistance. And like, notice your body, right? Even as I'm saying these things, my body, I feel my solar plexus, especially, there's a churning over because I've given away power. There's a pressure in my throat because of that feeling of having to suppress and not feel. So notice your body in those moments. You'll notice because you're starting to feel like crap, right? The indication is everything was okay. And then I said, I don't like that thing. And your whole body responds because that's not an appropriate, aligned, truthful, beneficial way to think or feel or speak. So number two is, how does this resistance sneak in undetected? Is our clinging, right? I clung to the bunny not leaving. I clung to the business succeeding in this certain way at this certain time with this certain strategy, right? I clung to the perception that someone else projected on me that I thought I had to live up to in order to be considered successful in whatever endeavors I decided I wanted to set out on. How do you cling to things? Do you cling to the cooler weather over the hot weather? Do you cling to the clouds over the sun or the sun over the clouds? Do you cling to things should be this way? Do we should all over ourselves or externally or internally? All right. Number 3 is ignoring. It is known that toxic positivity is a problem. But emotions get stuck in the body. So had I ignored how I felt, have I just written it off and said, you know what, bunnies are meant to be hawk food and I just need to accept that and move on. And I invalidate how I feel by doing that. And notice if you ever felt invalidated as a child or even in a toxic relationship or in the military, whatever it may be, that invalidation is a fracturing, it's a breaking off, it's a separation, it's an exhausting energy drain because that thing in your body, that emotion needs to be addressed. And yes, I call myself the vibe mentor because it is all about having the highest possible vibration in every moment. But there are times where pain and mourning and grief are necessary. And it is the peaks that make the valleys difficult, but it is also the valleys that make the peaks so worthwhile. That if it was always beautiful, we would never appreciate how tremendous that is. And then finally, number 4, doubt and fear. We invalidate the potential. We invalidate the possibility. We invalidate change. We refuse to believe that life could be any different than it's ever been. And of course, that's partially not even your fault because the brain is designed to project on the future the way the past has been. Therefore, it could never be any different. But in that fear of it never changing, or the doubt of possibility, or the fear of disappointment, the fear of getting our hopes up and being, having our hopes dashed again, we create resistance. We create blocks. We create walls that prevent manifestation, prevent flow, prevent connection, prevent love, prevent peace, joy, happiness, all the things. So these are sneaky ways. They're sneaky, especially because the brain's job is to keep us safe. And it thinks that by keeping us from looking at the things that cause us pain, it's helping us. But really, feel it to heal it, go through the valley to get to the mountaintop, all of these things that we know we have to be conscious of. We have to be smarter than the brain. We have to be looking for the sneaky ways that it comes in, the resistance comes in undetected so that we can take control of our brain and use our brain as the tool that it's meant to be so that we are not allowing it to be our taskmaster, because the brain will trick us. The brain will lie to us. It will keep us from looking at what needs to be looked at. It will keep us in a state of deception and confusion. People say, oh, you're the only thing that stands in your own way, right? You're the only thing standing in your own way. What does that even mean? There's so many things that people said, and I was like, oh, I want to understand this because I believe it to be true and I feel the resonance of truth in my body, but I still don't understand it. And what I've come to understand that to mean for me, what resonates as truth for me and the evidence I have seen in my clients is that the perceptions that we choose, the brain's deception, is the thing that stands in our way, that our body is so willing to flow and so willing to heal. But the brain tells us we need to resist. The brain tells us we need to fight. The brain tells us fight, flight, fawn, freeze. It tells us there's imminent danger when there really isn't anything there to fear because of what we experienced long ago. It tells us we're still there when we're no longer there. It tells us so many lies. And the best advice I can give as it relates to this is just ask for clarity. Ask God, give me clarity of perception. Help me see the truth. Because it is available to you. It is possible. And the beauty is when we release, when we surrender, the pain actually passes. The wounds heal. The holes in our hearts close and fill. And we can be whole and complete again. There is hope on the other side. We fear that if we stop resisting, that the pain will overwhelm and overcome us, that life will just be too much to bear. We won't be able to survive this. But it is actually the furthest from the truth. That in that surrender, there is a release. There is healing. There is freedom from the pain, freedom from the past. There is flow. Our abundance birthright is made available to us. And new baby bunnies will come. Interestingly enough, as I was trying to understand the meaning of the baby bunny, I looked over at my hat, and I know this is hard to see, but if anybody knows this brand, Tony Robbins wears it. It says "Live Lucky." And as I just looked out the window really to try to find the answer as my therapist asked me about it. And I looked at that term, or just the word lucky is all I saw. And I said, I don't know what those bunnies are trying to tell me, but I just looked at the hat and I saw the word lucky. And I know that the rabbit's foot is viewed as an omen of luck. And so something lucky is coming in this beautiful understanding of how to let go, not be in control, not be in resistance, surrender to the divine, and receive the luck that I have been resisting. There it is. Thank you very much. Welcome to my moment of clarity. I hope you also received some gifts through this as well. I don't often like to talk about myself because it really isn't about myself, but sometimes I'm not a great storyteller unless I practice starting with my own. So let go of resistance, my friends. Keep an eye out for it. Notice it in your body. Notice the clenching in your shoulders, your fists, your jaw, your throat. Your stomach might turn over. Look for the way that you feel resistance. Go out and practice. Go out and practice. Be like, I hate you, son. Why are you here? Right? You're in resistance to something that will never go away. Your body will respond like, really? You think that's going to be beneficial? Notice that is your indication of how your body responds to resistance, and then pay attention as you go through life. And every time you get that flare up in that certain area of your body that you noticed earlier, that is your indication. Your body will help you. Your body loves you. Your body wants to heal you. And your body is your best friend. It's like the beautiful mother who nurtures and holds your soul, keeps you safe, and helps you keep going. So the body holds the key. The body is the answer to healing, and the body will help you navigate life. I think that feels complete. I love you, my friends. If you're interested in trauma spotting, I do have a trauma spotting certification course opening August 15th. It's an 8-week course where you will not only heal your own trauma, but you will become a trauma healer. If you're already a coach, this is perfect for becoming trauma informed. If you have your own trauma and you want to heal, this course will not only help you learn how to heal others, but it will also heal your own. We will cover not only trauma 101, how does it affect the brain and body? What are the states of the nervous system? How does the vagus nerve play into that? But also the 8 most common trauma responses. And you will be paired with someone so that you can practice doing trauma spotting, which means you will receive healing and give healing so that by the end of the 8 weeks, you are not only healed, but ready to be a healer. So I would love to offer that to you. There's a link below if you'd like to join us for that. Otherwise, thank you for being here this long. I love you, my friends, so very much. And I will be seeing more of you in the very near future in whatever capacity Source may decide. Take care. Namaste. I love you.